here. Okay, we have a quorum. So, welcome everyone. First on the agenda is the prior meeting minutes, which everyone has seen the edited version. Are there any questions or changes? Okay, if everyone is okay with that, then can I have a motion to accept the minutes of February 19th?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. Brian Smith,
Yes.
Leslie Harrison,
Yes.
Tom Reardon,
Yes.
Millie Milton,
Yep.
Ryan Swanson,
Yes.
Amanda Millette,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So the minutes are approved. I will send those to the town clerk tomorrow. First on the agenda are the status of existing CPA projects. First on the agenda is again the Brigham Street Burial Ground. We've had discussions about what to do with the remaining funds, which is a little more than $7,000. We have I think the next step is we have a meeting with Scott Charpentier on April 10th at 12 o'clock for anyone that can make it. Obviously, if we have more than a quorum, then we'll basically be asking Scott questions without deliberation. I plan to be there, and whoever else can be there. One of the items would be he has a quote for, I believe, 4 posts, and then the question is, can we maybe put a chain between the posts, or what the spacing between the posts are and the orientation. So once we get out there, we'll be able to see what he has to say. There's been also some discussions about whether there are alternate posts that we could use, maybe to save a little money. So I think it's really up to Scott to decide on that, but we can at least make some recommendations. So is there any more discussion on that? I think we've discussed this quite a bit. We'll talk to Scott, and then I think after April 10th, I think what we can do is vote on it at our April meeting and make the final decision to have him go ahead and expend the remaining funds.
I'd like to look to the future as well, not just using the funds, but sort of the bigger plan as well.
Which would be what, asking for more funds, possibly?
No, not at this point, but yeah, for next year's cycle. Yeah, we talked about maybe what to do on the side of the property.
Okay. There is an issue of whether we want to, how much funds we might have left to put some trees on the right side of the property where there are no graves.
Yeah, that's what I mean about looking to the future.
Right. And it's also could be a time for us to plan for another CPA request in the fall.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I already have a couple items for possible CPA requests, so we'll be discussing that later. Okay, moving on. I don't think there's anything to vote on there. Warp cemetery signs, I take it we'll just put that on hold for now, Leslie. You haven't heard anything?
No, and you've seen I've sent some, tried to be kind, but also like, hey, what? But yeah, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Move on now to committee representatives updates. First one is the CPC. Leslie?
Yeah, there will be no updates until the
Okay.
next cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
we're
You had
pretty
the
much done,
final,
ready for town
the
meeting.
final
Yeah,
vote
there's
at the
nothing.
last one.
Yeah, that's, unless an emergency comes up, we have no meetings planned or nothing until the next cycle.
Okay. Master plan implementation. Billy?
So we actually are meeting tomorrow. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make that meeting.
But I'll be there, my first meeting.
All righty then. But so there really hasn't been any updates since the last, because we're only meeting about every 3 months now.
Was there any follow-up to the Blake Street project that we had at the discussion at the library? Any follow-up there?
Not yet, because that was before our last meeting. I mean,
Okay.
that was after our last meeting, and I expect that will come up tomorrow.
Okay.
I know
Well,
that Lori's working with some people to try to get, some local support and some of the landowners, involvement in that. And I think she's reached out to a couple of them, and I think she's heard back, gotten some from some owners, but hasn't really been able to connect with others.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda for the committee representatives is the Northborough Revolution 250 Committee. That's the committee that Brian Smith and I are on.
Yep.
So we've under the ARPA grant, we purchased the clothing for the outfitting 10 Minutemen. We got some 5 replica muskets that have arrived. They really look very realistic. They don't fire, but the trigger works. But that's about it. We have the 27 Witness House photo exhibit, which was Michael Roman did that. He did an excellent job. We have basically pictures before and after, existing pictures plus historic pictures. These are the 27 houses that existed during the Revolution that are still standing in Northborough. And there is a photo display that will be April 16th to 30th in the library. And we're going to have a reception on April 19th. I'm not sure of the exact time. I think it's been kicked around, but I'll get back to you. So on April 19th, there's going to be a reception. We'll be, some of us will be dressed up as Minutemen. And then after that, I think there'll be a video display of that as well for cable access TV. And then I believe we're scheduled to also put it in Town Hall after that as an exhibit. I think we're looking at the best location for that. The Minutemen Day celebration is scheduled for May 3rd, which is a Saturday. It'll be at the Town Common. It'll be some speeches, reenactments, and a few other events. We just basically had a special meeting to decide some of the activity that's going to go on. It'll be a 2-hour event, and then after that, there'll be an open house at the Historical Society where we'll also be showing the 27 witness houses. We've completed 3 videos, and there's 3 more in process that are in the filming stage right now.
What about the new memorial? Will that be ready in time?
The new memorial is going to be voted on as a CPC project. So that won't be available
Oh,
until
right. It's town meeting and
town meeting, and then the funds will be available July 1st.
for next year. Yeah.
So that will, I'm not sure if approved, I'm not sure when that would be actually installed, probably in the summer.
Yeah, it would have to be after July. The funds wouldn't be
It'd have to
available
be-
until
the
July
funds
1st.
would-
Yeah.
After July, and then we might have some sort of ceremony there, and that will play in very well with the activities we plan for fiscal year 26, which will be the 250th anniversary of the Northborough Declaration of Independence. That's in June 2026. Okay, Tom, anything on the building, on the firehouse building committee?
Yes, the filed sub bids were received March 13th and they were opened. There are 15 major categories that had been submitted, And as state law, you were required to take the lowest bidder. And we're about 15% below the budget. So they're in the 50% construction drawings. We did cost estimate around 16.4 million. The sub bids come in around 14.6. So that's good progress. The general contractor bids are due Friday, and they're going to be opened on March 26th, a week from today. So if that holds true, we have another 5 to 10% savings. We should be, below the 42 million budgeted easily. So because we have a difficult site, we're not certain how the general contractor bids will come in, but we'll know soon enough.
Good. What do you think the groundbreaking would be?
Well, if the contract is awarded in April, there would be a groundbreaking in April.
Really?
But
wow.
I don't. We'll have to wait to see, and because they have to go through the negotiation of contracts and all the legal work, do the bonding, etc. So we shall see.
Anything else on that?
That's it.
Okay. Amanda, anything on the library board?
Just going over some policies and procedures and just kind of making sure those are all looking good, but that's kind of it for right now.
Okay, thank you. Am I missing any other committee representation? I think that's where we stand. Nothing else? Okay. All right, under new business, I thought I would want to briefly discuss the town warrants. They're now, I think the select board has finalized the town warrants right now. I have the latest draft of that. And I just wanted to show a few things that are of interest to the Historical Commission. That's not it. That's not it. Where did I put it? Huh. Ah, okay. So the first one is Article 47, which is we have to take some action on. This is the amendment to the historic buildings section of the definition of significant building under the bylaw that talks about the demolition delay. We reviewed that last meeting. So let me just pull it up for everyone. And we are listed here. Sorry. Okay, so you just remember that we basically kept everything the same. We took out the 2 paragraphs that mentioned the macris and the whether a town it's in the historical district as one of the criteria, and we left it and we used the language that was recommended by the Massachusetts Historical Commission. And it gives basically the criteria for determining whether something is historical or architecturally significant. It keeps in the bylaw that the building has to be 100 years old or more. We discussed that a little bit further. There is a recommendation for the Historic District Commission. I went back to the minutes of last meeting and we went through this and we voted on it. So I was able to tell the administration that the Historic Commission recommends this. So there's really nothing for us to vote on today. One thing I did want to mention, and it's brought up, is that we want to consider at some point reducing the age to 50 years or more. I think the consensus is for this particular language, it would be, I'm not sure we're ready for that yet, but what I wanted to bring up is the question is, currently Macris has some buildings that are less than 100 years old. I think one example is 333 Howard Street. Tom, that was the one that it's a Frank Lloyd Wright style house.
Right.
Mhm.
That is that's a little more than 50 years old. So the question is, does anyone remember how property less than 100 years old got put into Macris? I know we under CPA funds, we had a consultant many years ago that did an inventory of property in Northborough. And I think before we were to ever took a vote on this changing of the bylaw, and again, this would have to be next year because it would require a town vote to change the bylaw. But more important than just the bylaw is, do we want to expand the Macris listings? And if so, it might be it would be probably require a consultant to do the inventory work to expand the listings to from, let's say, 100 years to either 75 or 50 years. And that might be an appropriate project for CPA funding because the original was CPA funded.
Mm.
Any comments on that? I just don't have the historical background from what happened in the committee that long ago. But it's something to consider. Do we want to expand the Macris listings? Right now we have a pretty long list of Macris property.
Well, I would say anything built after World War II is probably not going to be historically or architecturally significant, just from the decline in design and building materials. So that's my prejudice.
Right. There is one point, I mean, like, for example, the 333 Howard Street as an example. It's not 100 years old, but you would think that it was architecturally significant enough that there might be a demolition delay put on it. But
That's
under
the exception. Yeah.
that's a one exception. I mean, there might be a few other exceptions, but you're right. It's probably not many exceptions. It's something to consider. Maybe we shouldn't do it right now, but I'd like to consider this as a possible CPA project to get the person who did the original Macris listings for Northborough to come back and expand that. Maybe it wouldn't be as big a project as the original. And then the question becomes, at least we would have the Macris listing. We may not be able to do anything about demolition delay, but at least we can, maybe we can consider somehow changing the wording to include an exception to the 100-year listing. So, okay, just to move on now. The other two articles relate to the Northborough Revolution 250 activity, but is actually sponsored by the Historic District Commission. So I want to bring those up. And that would be Article 41 is the request for funding through appropriation. This was for $15,000 to support activity in the town in fiscal year 26, which would be starting July 1st. That would cover the activities that we have planned for the Knox Trail celebration and the Northborough Declaration of Independence in June of 2026. And possibly also the dedication of the monument. So that's Article 41. Excuse me. And Article 37 is the CPA funded monument. Okay, and that's been approved by the CPC. And that would be at the town common. Let me just. Thought I had it here, right? Okay. Anyway, I had a picture of it where it's supposed to be, but it's basically get in front of the Civil War monument. Okay, and then there are some warrants that are related to the White Cliffs. Under CPC, the big one is the design. Article 38 is the design study for White Cliffs, basically to tear down the new sections of White Cliffs, make it more historic and actually more capable of being possibly sold. There's a debt service, Article 39, and Article 42 is the historic deed restriction on White Cliffs. And 43 is the approval for leasing or sale of the White Cliffs. There were also some articles related to 4 West Main Street, one of them being the approval for leasing or sale of the 4 West Main Street. Okay, any other discussions on town warrants?
Can I ask a question here? So, when you know how at the end of it, it says endorsed or recommended by a committee, did the Historic District Commission, are you supporting those White Cliffs articles?
We weren't asked to
Oh.
support. There was usually, like, for example, under CPC, it had a recommendation by CPC, which they recommended, I believe, the Finance Committee. So there's usually 2 recommendations at the end of each warrant. And the only one that we were asked to recommend was the change in the bylaw for the historic buildings.
I see. Okay,
And
thanks.
and we voted on that last meeting, so we don't have to vote on it tonight.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just curious, thanks.
Yeah, I think if officially we were asked to support them, then we would have to go through a more careful review.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sense is obviously that we support saving White Cliffs in any way possible. Okay. So if there's nothing on the town warrant, everyone should show up at town meeting and vote. Next is Millie wanted to discuss the Historic District Commission update to the master plan. Millie,
Yeah,
do you want me to show your matrix?
Yeah, if you can. I don't know why I just had a lot of trouble with it. So I'm hoping you guys can get an idea of what
It's
I
quite
have been
small, so I'm not,
entering.
it's quite small, so I'm not sure we can.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the person who does know how to do this is not really in the office. So
Well, there it is.
and we can also, if people want to take a look at it next time, because they should have received it, I guess. Some people got
Yeah,
it.
I got it today, so I really didn't have a chance to look at it.
Right. And I guess what I'm looking for is the things that have the tasks completed to date, I've written in over the course of the last year, 2 years. Um, and if there are things I missed or things that aren't clear or need to be revisited, I just wanted to see if what I was doing is something that is in keeping with what you guys have in mind for goals, tasks, and things like that.
What do you think we need to do sh- in terms of what's the next step after we review this?
Um, well, I mean, if there's something that is stopping us from going forward, like, right now I can't seem to get anybody on that. One of our goals is to look into becoming a certified local government. I've gotten the biographies from folks, but there's nobody to send them to at this point. So unless you know who else is now directing where those applications are going, or who I should submit to, because Jen had vacated.
I don't
hadn't
know.
heard
I
anything.
know Jen Doherty got another job, that I saw,
Right.
but I don't know who replaced her. But I'm
And
sure it will show up on the website.
I could not find it. So
Okay, it has, well,
maybe I'm not looking in the right place, but that being said, what I'd like to do is on those lines is look at what are the other criteria and see if we can start filling those in. Even if we don't qualify based on our current board makeup, that doesn't mean we can't move towards trying to get there. So I think there's like 4 or 5 other criteria that they are looking for, and I guess the process would be, well, how, start setting up a format for us to get some of those accomplished.
well, then, if we start the review process next month,
Yeah.
at some point, we'll approve what you have, and then where will this document go?
We just continue to work on it.
Okay.
We have short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals. You're revising it and you're adding to it. One of the goals is to make an inventory or list of and add on to some of the historical assets and things that I think Julianne had brought up, legacy trees. And I guess I'd like to look at what might be other historical archaeological features, such as stone walls or things like that, that we have in our town that we don't have in a list. So really just taking a look at what the goals are, and how to get there. I would love to get some feedback on that.
Okay, well, we actually already mentioned expanding the inventory as possible CPA project. That, so I think what we'll do is we'll review this, and then if anyone has any objections or changes to it, we may not be able to get through it all next month, but we can at least start.
Right, and that's what I'd like to be able to add in things that we're working on this part, or we're doing this part. It talks about public input and getting more participation from either students or things like younger different populations. And if anybody has any ideas of things they've experienced in other towns, one of the towns that I went to probably about a year and a half ago had sort of a scavenger hunt for people to, uh, not necessarily collect things, but how many of these do you see in our town? How many gargoyles? And it was just kind of a neat way to understand some of the. I think it'd be neat to discover what we have in our own town. If we can come up with some interesting questions, some interesting places or clues or hints for people to maybe investigate, I think that would be kind of fun.
Okay. Well, one thing is as we go through this, we'll look at short-term and long-term projects.
Yep.
There are things we could probably accomplish right away.
We've actually done quite a bit. I think, honestly, looking at the overall matrix, we've probably accomplished quite a bit more than other areas in the master plan. So kudos to our committee.
Okay, anything else on that? Thank you, Billy, very good. Next on the agenda is, again, we'll raise the issue of the Trinity Church Main Street Historic District. This is where we had been discussing setting up a historic district study committee. This would be required to get buy-in from some of the neighbors. We basically have an agreement by the Trinity Church to do this, but they really don't want it to be a standalone single property historic district.
Right.
I think we were looking for someone to lead that committee. The timing would be that we would have to have a, everyone should have a copy of the original Main Street Historic District study, which I believe was 1972. So that could be a basis for it, but we would have to have a document ready for review by the fall to be included as possibly as a town warrant for approval in 2026. So there's time, but not a lot of time for this type of a study. So do we want to table that until next meeting? Unless someone jumped up and took the lead.
What does it involve?
What does it involve? It's basically a rather lengthy study, I don't know, on the order of 10 pages or so of what the historic district would be, the map of the historic district. We would have to have buy-in by the residents because there are some pros and cons to being in a historic district. And then it would have to go to the select board, but also to the Massachusetts Historical Commission. Again, we're somewhat rudderless there because we still have to have a replacement in this Massachusetts Historical Commission. Then they would have to approve it, and then it would go to town meeting.
Would Preservation Massachusetts like have a step-by-step plan for how you do this?
They mostly do preservation plans, but it's possible they do that. I'm not aware that they would do something like this, but again, is something that we probably have to do on our own because we don't have funding to get an outside person to do it. Unless we requested CPA funds, which is another option.
So didn't Jen go to work for the Barrett Group, Judy Barrett, and they now offer this type of service. So maybe getting some grant money to consult with the Barrett Group would be a good avenue to take.
That's a good possibility to do that. Keep in
Yeah,
mind,
Judy Barrett's great.
keep in mind that we would be asking CPA funds, which if approved would go to a town meeting to approve a study to do a historic district, which has not been very popular in the town in the past because, so, I mean, it's basically, it would be a two-step process now. And I'm not sure how successful that would be. But I think they would certainly do a good job. And
Well, they probably would be helpful. I'm sure they've come across this resistance in other towns, so I think their expertise in selling it would be invaluable too, not just the logistics of doing it, but the mechanics of doing it, but.
So maybe it would be worth checking with Jen Doherty then as a next step. Okay. I will take that on and report back.
Yeah, I don't know Jen, but Judy's phenomenal, so.
Does anyone know Jen very well?
I know Judy, but I don't know Jen.
Yeah, same, but Judy's, yeah, worth her weight in gold, certainly.
I'm sorry, who's Judy?
Judy Barrett,
Oh, the Barrett Group, okay.
she consulted on writing town bylaw revisions in 2008, the design review guidelines in 2012. So she's been involved with the town quite a bit over the years.
Do you know who did the town inventory?
No,
Norm would know, though.
Tom,
usually
could,
they're listed on the Macris forms. Person that did the description of the
Oh.
properties.
well, usually that came from the Historical Society, most of them. They credit Historical Society.
They consulted, but there is an author to each building description.
Oh, okay, I'll look that up. I was
Brian's
wondering,
name is probably on a bunch of them.
Would you mind running this by Judy?
Sure.
Just to get a feel for what we would have to do, and what, where we might get some support.
I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll table that until next meeting. Next on the agenda, Amanda, did you want to discuss the businesses in historic buildings?
Sure. So I put together a very rough spreadsheet so far. Let me see if I can share it. So this is very rough, what I've just come up with off the top of my head. But I've been driving Main Street a lot lately, and I feel like I keep noticing places that might be potential for this. So I'll have to do some more digging and see what else I can find. So right now I've got business names and addresses, and then the current use of what they are now, and then what they used to be used for, kind of like the historic use for them, and then the year that they were built. I have a lot here that I know, either just personally or from my parents, that they are historic. I just haven't gotten all the information yet, so I just have to do some more digging in that. So if there's any place that anybody knows of off the top of their head, feel free to email me or let me know what I should be adding to my list.
24 Main Street. Isn't that the little bank building, or what, Millie? What's it?
Oh, yeah.
What's Mark
like
Smiley's
that's-
property?
I
Is that
think that's
26?
28.
28?
24 is the is actually the white one. So I think it's 28, 26 or
28.
28.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's wealth management, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mark Smiley, yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm just kind of pulling it together and seeing, and then I figure once I have the whole list, I'll see, I may break it down as far as, like restaurants, services, stores, that sort of thing, depending on how big the list gets.
Some of those properties would be in the new Main Street Historic District.
Yes.
Anything that would be contiguous to the Trinity Church.
Yep.
That's
So Maytech is at 56 Hudson Street, and the only portion of the building that is historic is the brick building on the corner of River Street
Street
and
and Hudson?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and Maytech, I wasn't sure if I was going to include that because it's not like something that you can call up and say, hey, I want this thing. But I figured I'd throw it on there for now, and we can kind of go through and decide what we want to keep and what we don't think is important.
How old is the building that, Lowe's food store it used to be in that's now been redone? Was,
Hmm.
That may be historic. There's nothing there right now as far as I know, so I wasn't including it. If something actually opens there, I would certainly include it.
we're kind of confused about whether there's it seems like there might be a business in there, but we should check with planning, I guess. Huh?
And how about the corner of South and Main? What is that? 10 Main Street? The Whitaker
Where
building?
yeah, where Michelle is.
Yes.
Yeah, I gotta put that one. That's definitely historic.
Is that 10?
Specialties.
Oh, yeah, special.
The Johnstone
Yes.
building.
Yeah,
And then elegant antiques too.
it's teas as in the stuff you drink, TEAS.
Yes, yes, thank you. Do I have?
Apostrophe, sorry, it's gonna kill me.
That's okay. I appreciate that. And then bills is 2. And then the other thing that I'm not sure how to do is like with Bill's Barbershop, there's a lot of different businesses in that one building. So I may just do different, separate entries for each business.
Yeah, nice list. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Can you, when it gets cleaned up, can you send that around to everyone?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
No rush on that, but. Okay, thank you. We'll continue that next meeting also, if there's any updates.
Yeah,
Anything
it's
else?
really a
Pam?
great idea. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Leslie. You're welcome.
So we could, are you envisioning some like flyers or something that list the,
That's originally what I was envisioning. Like, I just envision like at a lot of antique stores, you'll see they have like a trifold of like, oh, these are the other like antique stores in the area or something. So I was kind of envisioning that, but it kind of depends on how many places I find and what, how much information we want to include for each. So
even if you had a single flyer that listed all the historic businesses in historic buildings,
mhm.
and give them out to the various historic buildings, let them give them out to their customers.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a great project. Millie, you and I should remark about this because it could be an interesting thing when we move towards economic development plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm also on MPIC, that's why I'm saying. Well,
Yeah, it sounds great. And businesses might want to contribute to developing a flyer for their own. Give them the
Yeah.
information.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
And again, that does fall into some of the goals that we have on our master plan.
Right, Millie, if this is already on the matrix that you had,
Mm-hmm.
or, basically, make sure it's on the matrix and.
Actually, so yeah, that's a great thing to add again. So let me see. Just trying to think what would be the best way to sort of capture that.
Good.
And yeah, I'll see if I can add it, maybe an update. Don't ask me to send it to you all again though, because I don't know how to do that.
Okay, Amanda, we'll move on. Is that
Yep,
anything else?
that sounds good.
Great, very good. Next is the Millie, a certified local government. I think that's on hold right now. Do you have everything you need from us as to bios?
Yeah, for the most part, I do. And I think what I'll do is I was going to summarize them all and put them together again for people to read. Um, if there's anything that people can think of like their uh it's a background or education, I think we kind of touched on most of that. Um, but I don't think our as a group or a committee we have. I think we're partially there with what they're looking for makeup of members. But what I'd like to do is maybe propose a way to encourage other types of um, professions to look at becoming members. But there's a couple other things that, as far as going along with their some of their criteria. If you have another historic committee in town, have some differentiation between what we do, what they do, have something written down. And just a few other things we can work on if our committee makeup yet doesn't quite meet what they're looking for.
Well, I mean, you would be submitting it as part of, we're the Historical Commission and the Historic District Commission. We're really combined two commissions.
They might want to see what each committee does. If I understand correctly, reading from how other towns had to sort of navigate that. Basically it says must be able to, let me see, memorandum of understanding identifying the areas to be designated to each commission. So they want to see where we're separated and what we do, what they do. But yeah,
I think that's pretty well explained in the preservation plan.
in
Yeah.
ours.
In
Uh,
our,
yeah,
I think
and
that's
that might be
document
something
is
that I
available.
can again pull into. I'm not sure how I would have found that, but I think you bring up a good point. Just look there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they have to approve it based on experience, I just can't imagine how we would have a problem. Besides, members' experience, the preservation plan is a really thorough document. We've had a lot of other towns come to us asking about how to do a
Oh,
preservation plan.
yeah, and that's one of the criteria that they're looking for is, has an acceptable preservation law. We have a plan. Is it part of our bylaws? And those are things I think we can begin to investigate. What are they looking for, and how do we begin to move towards that? It's not going to be a fast process.
Okay,
I can send out some of the requirements that they're looking for. There's basically 5, but they're pretty, big in each one. So, has an adequate and qualified historic preservation review commission. Has a system for the survey and inventory of historic properties. Well, we have a list, but do we have a system for that survey? I don't know. Do we?
there's a lot in the preservation plan that would that would keep them busy for a while to just reading it.
Right. So maybe just pulling out some of the things that we already have. But yeah, I think that's a great starting point. Providing for adequate public participation. That's something that we're working towards. And I think we try to do a pretty good job on that, you know. So I think we've got, maybe 3 out of the 5 pretty solid, and maybe 2 that we probably need a bit more guidance on. But got to start.
Okay. Hi, Volker. Join us. Okay, moving on. I received a demolition request for 343 Hudson Street. And it is certainly old enough. For those that there it is.
Oh,
It's
oh,
anyway, I checked with Bob Frederico, and it is going to be condemned. It's going to be an emergency demolition.
hmm.
Um, I had requested that we be allowed to go inside and take pictures and just document it, but it's in such bad shape that he's trying to get permission for me to go. He's gonna get back. I think there's obviously some safety issues, so he's gonna get back to me. But I did get confirmation from him that it will be an emergency demolition, and therefore that there's no need for us to have a public meeting and decide whether it's a historic building or not. This is the building, by the way, at the fork in the road at Hudson Street and Solomon Pond
Yeah.
on the left.
Sad.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. So I was today there, and yeah, it looks like this. I wonder. I'm new in the field, of course. That the owner purposefully, over the years, demolished so much the property that it's not worth it. So I don't know if when something like this happened, where the owner purposefully destroyed his property, that he doesn't get any restriction from any historical part, if this commission can sue this owner for vigilant uh, circumvents the laws to not to deal with historical preservation of historical buildings. Do you understand what I meant? And do you agree with this kind of uh, purposeful action on
I don't-
the owners and also
I
the
think that would be a
danger in
difficult thing to
future?
prove. Do you have proof? Like, how would you prove that?
Well, it's whatever he did on the property, and I observed the property for many years. He eliminated things which were not necessary. So it can be photographed over the years, and there was definitely not, and it's now in dangerous condition. I agree with this somehow. So if it maybe outside lead paint, which he wanted to demolish, also to eliminate, that's maybe okay when it's orderly done, or even just only to make a purpose to get it rid of. I think they can make a case for other properties, of course.
Well, one of the issues is with the current bylaw on a demolition delay, the commission can impose a 180-day demolition delay to look for alternatives to demolition. But beyond that, it is really up to the owner. And the owner doesn't have to accept alternatives to demolition. So it's basically putting a hold on it for 180 days without really any power behind it. So that would be difficult for us to. I'm not a lawyer, but it would be difficult for us to go after an owner. But I think it might be helpful. Let me just read. I got this from Robert Frederico, the building inspector, about this. And he said the building at 343 Hudson Street was structurally altered from the interior, happening 3 to 4 years ago. The quality of work is so bad that the structural integrity has been compromised and there's little to no foundation for a large portion of the building. The building has been gutted. My intent was to order it demolished because of the structural condition. The demo delay was caused by a series of different owners with different plans, all of which was to involve the building coming down. If I knew the demolition would take this long, I would have ordered it down as per MGL Chapter 143, Section 93-100. It's still my intent to order the demolition for safety reasons or included in the latest approval. So, and it says additionally, this property has undergone 2 attempts to demolish current buildings and rebuild with a duplex, both approved by the town. The first set of special permits and variances expired. I did not realize this building was historic until now. I'm available, blah, blah, blah. So that's basically some background of it. It's, I think it's a done deal, and obviously it's out of our hands in terms of
I was surprised when I drove by there recently and back in my ZBA, and I just looked it up. So town archive. So there was a site plan in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and then went before another set of plans in 2023.
Yeah.
So they were talking about doing all sorts of, I don't remember all the details of it, but I do remember reviewing the plan, so I don't know what happened in the meantime. I just drove by it yesterday. I was surprised to see it in that condition.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was originally a building in the old Chapinville. I can't remember which one it was, but it was certainly a historic building from the Chapinville days.
Well, 5 to 6 years ago, they applied to convert it into a duplex.
Yep.
Yeah,
Working with the existing structure, and they went before design review, and it was approved, and then it stalled, and I don't know how many different owners have been involved, but as Bob Federico has pointed out, it was poorly constructed to begin with, and then it was made even less tenable to keep it. So it was sabotaged, but I don't think this commissioner, any department in town has any legal standing to pursue this infliction of destruction. It's just unfortunate.
That's what I'm thinking about, Tom. I was surprised to see the documents were from 2022. So I think I'm thinking of, yeah, the earlier, I remember the duplex plans and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been going on for a long time.
Okay. Well, what I will try to do is document the inside of the building for our archives, and
Be
Yeah.
careful if they've
Well-
modified the structure.
I'm going to leave it up to Bob Federico to make sure it's safe. If not, I'll at least I took a picture of the outside. Okay, so now we're at near the end. There's a couple new items that I have to add to the agenda. So other issues for the commission. We've received a letter from Trinity Church that they're going to be starting the steeple restoration. And it was just basically a heads up, nothing for us to do. But it's good that they are working on that project. I think that was sent to the select board as well. Okay, so just for everyone's information. Next on the agenda is it's time for commission elections in April. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up and start thinking about officers for our vote in April, next meeting. If we don't need to go into it right now, but we will next week. Next month we'll be taking nominations for chair, vice chair, and secretary. If anyone
Just
has
heads
any
up, I'm going to be traveling from the 11th to the 27th of April, so I'm going to miss the next meeting.
Okay, I'll probably need to talk to you about your plans as vice chair.
I mean, yeah, I'm happy to serve as vice chair.
You could be nominated
still-
with abstention, I assume.
Yes.
I'll get confirmation. Also, if anyone wants to talk among themselves without a quorum about possible officers, or if you want to discuss your ideas with me, you're welcome to. I'm looking to pass the torch if possible, but we'll see. I think it's
See
healthy
how far back I can step.
it's
Yeah.
healthy to have new blood. Okay, so that's something to think about for next meeting. We typically would have elections every April. Two more items came up. I was asked by Mitch Cohn actually to consider revising the street naming memo, the one from, what is it, 1983? And
I think I brought that up last time too.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good project. One thing to keep in mind is that the current bylaw that we're going to be revising, but the current bylaw basically does not refer to the memo. It basically just says that the naming has to be historical or cultural significance. And then the memo is basically guidelines.
Hmm.
Now, the memo, which I believe you all have, there it is. I don't know where the original is, but this is it. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up is if we do revise this, and let's say I could take a crack at the cover letter, basically reiterating what the bylaw says, and that this is a suggestion only memo. But notice it divides all the street names into various sections, and this is based on sections of the grid.
Oh, that I was wondering.
Yeah, and I have the grid, and it turns out that it's an old map anyway, so the
Huh.
grid doesn't match the current grid in Town Hall. So the question is, why? Why do we need to do that?
Yeah.
Does anyone know of any reason that it was broken down in so many different sections? Because there's a lot of grids. So that would be like grid 6D on the map.
It looks
Unless
like
the
they,
names are somehow, unless the names are somehow linked to those.
that
Very-
space,
very
that's what it
specifically,
seems
but-
like.
Yeah. Because the Mastodon, the Hopbrook, Shrewsbury under 6A. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's also possible we could play with the grid, so maybe not have as many grid squares. We could maybe do it and divide the town into, let's say, 4 sections, northeast, north, south, northwest, southeast, that type of thing,
We could just separate it by the precincts.
by precincts.
Yeah, because we already have
They
the
even have
4
some-
precincts. The voting
Some of
precincts.
them are duplicated, like Little Pond and Little Chauncey are on both.
Right. Well, the main thing is apparently some of these street names have already been taken. So we need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do this. We need to basically make a hard copy of this, cross out the names that are already taken. There's also apparently, and I haven't gone through the list very carefully, but there's some names that are currently inappropriate.
Yeah, Warpath.
Huh.
Yeah,
Right.
something
Peace
like
pipe.
that. You know, that might not be,
Wampum,
Yeah.
might not be,
Peace
you know,
pipe.
might have
Wait,
been
wait.
okay back. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a good example. So we would want to go through this, cross out the names that are no longer culturally appropriate for 2025.
Yeah,
And also some
definitely.
names that are already used.
Interesting.
And I like the fact that it leads with Dear Sirs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Interesting.
I will try to be, yes, I will definitely reword it. But so if I could ask everyone to go through this list and cross out the names that are duplicative or that are no longer appropriate.
Hmm.
That's your homework assignment.
Aha.
And then
Hmm.
let's keep the grids the way they are for now.
Just to be able to find them again.
I do have the map that this is based on.
Are you going to send that list to us?
Yes, this,
Yeah, just resend it if you can.
okay, it's a big document. For some reason, it was
Oh,
PDF, but it's a large file. I will send it to you, and I'll also send you the grid map as well. And then what you can do is just print it out and mark it up, and we can discuss, maybe at the next meeting, we can start cutting out names. And then we can make a decision about whether we want to keep the grid the way it is or change it to precincts. someone have a handy map of the precincts?
Not available for,
You know,
I can scan one in and send it to people, but not right now. I don't have it available right now.
okay. Well, when you get a chance,
Sure.
because we'll consider using that instead of the grid. But if we have to stick with the grid, I could see some reasons why the grid, we would keep the grid. But again, keep in mind that as a commission, when the planning board comes to us with a name, if the name is not on this list, but we can make the argument that it is, go back to the wording of the bylaw is historical or culturally significant to the town, then we would approve it. If the name was picked like Liberty, but it was in a different grid area, we would still have to approve it.
yeah,
Okay, but I think this is, I think this would help the planning board and the select board if they had an updated list in better condition than what we have here. Okay, thank you. Then,
One question, Bob, real quick. Can
Mhm.
we suggest additions to this list?
oh, good point. That was the other point I made. This will give us a good opportunity to come up with new names.
Okay.
Which, keep in mind from this memo of 1983, there might have been something more historic that occurred after that. Or something that we found out about. So yeah, let's think about new names. In fact, I would give high priority to any new names. And what we'll do as a commission is any new names or any changes to this will be voted on. And then when we come up with this final list, then we'll vote on approving the list and we'll send it to the select board and the planning board.
I'd love to know the genesis of some of these, like training ground. Like, what
Yeah.
are some of the,
That's probably near the old training
Training
ground.
ground is probably the training ground for the Minutemen.
the
Yeah.
militia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
probably,
okay, well,
yeah. And that's actually a very good name. We're actually doing a
hey,
video about that.
Harrington, it's already taken though.
Harrington just got taken.
Yep, yeah.
Maybe the name of the chair of the Historic District Commission could be on here somewhere.
There you go. I'm gonna nominate it.
Okay, and then the final thing on my list is that I guess the remote meeting authorization is going to the State House. I think it was passed by the House. I just heard that recently from Angie, and I think it has to be voted on by the Senate. So I didn't realize this, but this remote authorization for COVID was expiring this month. So if it's extended, it's supposed to be extended for another year. So I'll keep you
No, I
posted.
thought it was 2 years.
2 years.
Is it 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I just got the email today. So
silly referring to, and they should make it a permanent way of meeting.
yeah.
you know it. There's some advantages to it because you have a good record of the meeting that you know, we were huddled together in the kitchen with no visitors. There's really no record of the meeting.
Energy efficient.
I'm all for it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I'm surprised they're still referencing COVID and haven't just realized, okay, this is a great alternative. Let's just make it permanent.
Right.
And speaking of next meeting, it would be April 16th. Okay, is there any other business before the commission?
April 16th. Nope. Not that I can think of. But-
Okay, hearing nothing. So we're all set. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So
So moved.
moved.
Oh boy, 3 of us at once. I'll give that to Leslie.
Second.
That's enthusiasm for adjourning.
Okay, so we have Brian Smith,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Ryan Swanson,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
No,
Yes.
Not see you next month.
Right.
See you in 2 months. We'll see you on April 10th, actually.
Yes, you will.
Yep.
Good night.
Alrighty.
Bye.